Hey there, boys, girls, and flying squirrels. My name's Joe Keyport, and you're listening to the Ear Coffee Podcast. This week, I got a chance to speak with Colin Dahl of the band Prathloons. Recently, the band put out their second edition in their live record series, and it was during my conversation with Colin that I learned about the generous sound man that led to the release of Live Loons 2. Colin also told me all about how the band grew from a home recording project, and with the help of a few friends, turned into what we know today as Prathloons. This is Colin Dahl of Prathloons on the Ear Coffee Podcast. Is it just Prathloons?
Yeah, Prathloons. We like to have the emphasis on the Prath.
Yeah. Okay, gotcha. How are you doing this morning?
I am feeling great. I'm feeling refreshed. Good to be in North Minneapolis today.
Yeah.
It's a great Saturday morning spot. The sun is shining. The birds are singing. So yeah, I'm feeling great. We had a good show last night.
Yeah,
so.
you played at Moon Palace, right?
Moon Palace Books last night. I will say we usually have not our best shows there.
Okay.
But for last night, we were on that track. We forgot to bring our hi-hat stand and our hi-hats. So it was like, do we go back and get it?
Yeah.
Do we play less songs? But we just we hit the rim of the snare drum.
Interesting. Okay.
And it actually ended up working out okay. It was our best of the 3 times we've played at Moon Palace. It was the best I felt about our performance. So it was great.
Yeah, what about Moon Palace do you think adds to little hitches and hiccups that maybe make you don't have your best shows?
I think the last time, I think we probably didn't take enough time to really set the mood of the room.
Okay.
We played and all the house lights were on, which it's felt a little sterilized.
Yeah.
So last night we played the act that played before us, which is I'm Karen, which is Sophie from the band Sauna Accident.
Okay.
It's a solo project of hers, which is really great. So she had some special green and pink lights that we ended up using too. I couldn't see my my fretboard, but yeah, last night was much better just because the lighting was a little better. Some friends were there, and previously it's just lighting
Gotcha.
things or friends not being there, someone you wanted to come to the show and wasn't there. But
Yeah.
last night I think we kind of hit the nail on the head.
Nice.
We broke the curse.
Yeah, I've only been there. I went there once. I've only been there once. I can't remember who I saw. It was Sapphire and Juniper Douglas, if you know who they are.
Yeah, I've heard.
So yeah, it's an interesting space because you kind of walk through a bookstore and then suddenly there's just a performance space in the back. Yeah,
a very tall ceilings.
Yeah,
I like that they've treated the room sound wise, so it's it sounds great. Because I was at the first Moon Palace show, which was Royal Brat, and Tact. I think it was 2 years ago or so, and it's come a long way since then. And I think it's a great space, very friendly to all kinds of people, and it can be all ages per request.
Nice.
So I know that's meaningful to a lot of people.
Yeah, I find that now that we've kind of focused back into more DIY and underground music as the blog, I found beforehand it was kind of hard to find places where 18 plus shows or younger were.
Yeah, it's
common.
rare.
Yeah,
definitely rare.
But so, Colin, you've been putting out music for a long time. I realized I was reading, listening through your back catalog over the last couple days, and kind of just tell me your kind of path coming here, getting to this point, because you had Wings.
Yeah,
so that's what kind of tell me about that stuff.
Yeah, so the Wings project was really just it started out as kind of a learning music project because guitar for the most part, aside from lessons I took in 7th grade, the old town I lived in, aside from guitar lessons there, it was sort of self-taught. And so I bought a guitar at a pawn shop when I moved up here, and I didn't really have many friends. I worked a part-time job, so I really spent a lot of my time and energy into learning the guitar in ways that I wanted to learn it, aside from bringing a Blink-182 song into a rehearsal room and riffing off of that. So that really just me in my bedroom just really kind of gave me the freedom to kind of put into practice what had been swirling around in my head for all this time. And then I just used the built-in microphone on the MacBook to record most of those songs. I have a compilation online called The Mouth,
Yeah.
which is all of those songs, which is just kind of like a retrospective compilation of the shoddily recorded songs, but it really like just kind of got down what I was thinking about and really decided to release them because I had kind of gotten close to a community of people online. It was like a group of people I had met on Twitter. And, you know, we were kind of all musicians, and I just released music pretty much for them and, of course, for myself. But, you know, you always are keeping your audience in mind. And that went well. And then I met some people in Minneapolis who listened to my music and offered to help, you know, make it a band reality, a stage reality, which was obviously attractive to me at the time because, you know, I was still new to the city and, you know, wanted to be doing music and to be a part of that scene. And so, yeah, it just became more of a band thing from there. And we had our run, released 3 full band records that I'm really proud of. And then I felt like the project itself had kind of ran its course, and, you know, creative collaboration between me, Jake, and Cole had kind of, you know, we had gotten what we wanted out of it, and we're all just kind of involved with other life events or musical projects. And, you know, Prathloons, I just kind of wanted to be a bit more of like an optimistic music project, you know, songs that maybe sound a little happier, but are still maybe emotional at the core. It's Prathloons and Yeah Wings are kind of the same at heart, but I'm definitely trying to operate a different game as band leader for both of them.
Okay, so because when I listened through The Mouth, it definitely had a bit more of an experimental kind of feel to it. Like listening through like your self-titled debut record you put out last year, you can kind of hear some of those elements in there, like with like a lot of the dogs barking or almost sounds like you're recording outside or something like that. So was that kind of the way you wanted to go, or?
It's mostly that, I guess, is just kind of the resources that I have and the places that I tend to record my music. Okay. Like it's you know, in my room, in a room that's very similar to this one. It's, you know, wooded and, you know, no central air like most places in Minneapolis are. So I had to have my windows open for a lot of that. Yeah. So for like vocal takes for Jack and Nancy, which is the first track on Prathloons by Prathloons, you do hear a dog whimpering and a dog barking, which just happens to be my neighbor's dog on a good vocal take that I had. So I kept it, and I felt like, it just kind of add to the vibe of the record, it being like in the first minute of the record, I guess. It kind of like, it does kind of definitely set a tone and a mood. And that's why I think like when the instrumental wash on Jack and Nancy comes in, it's kind of like a welcome change, and it's kind of like, oh, this is a full band album. Yeah. Because Lands, which the album that came before Prathloons, was fully acoustic. So I guess kind of like maybe catch the listener off guard, which was, I guess, a conscious effort for sure. Okay. Yeah. You mentioned that you moved from Minneapolis. Where did you move from? A suburb of Cleveland, Ohio. Okay. Called Aurora. Just a little football town that I went to high school in. What drew you to the Twin Cities then? I had graduated high school in 2012, and I wasn't so sure what was next for me. I wasn't really great in high school, so colleges weren't really, you know, maybe it wasn't my calling at the time. Yeah. And so my parents had planned to move up here when I graduated for work, and I, you know, kind of followed. I don't want to say blindly because I had been up here prior to. Yeah. But definitely, like, it wasn't my like, I want to go to Minneapolis. I just kind of wanted to go somewhere. Gotcha. Yeah. And this was here, and I'm enjoying my time so far. I've been here for 8 years. Oh, nice. Yeah. So it's all right. So you mentioned that you, between Yeah Wings and Prathloons, that you want to be a different band leader for both, kind of between the two projects. Sure. What do you see yourself doing differently for Prathloons that you did for maybe Yeah Wings or something like that? Sure. So Yeah Wings was certainly more an outlet for like emotions that I had to get out, and that, you know, it was a more isolated time in my life, and I had less people I could really call friends, or less people I could really turn to, and just at a early 20s formative age when, there's a lot changing and a lot going on. I felt like that was really like a diary and a moment for me to really say these things, and it really be solely mine.
Okay.
And while Prathloons is still, I like, having creative control over everything. And, final say is usually mine. I do think of Prathloons as more of a band and a collaborative effort that I have with folks who, were my friends first, and not really people that I am simply playing music with. And so it just feels a lot better. And I think the songs naturally have a more optimistic light to be shed upon them. And like I said earlier, they're still, dear to me and emotional at the core, but it's not so, emo or something like that, because I've seen like folks online like describe Yowing's music as emo, like on this, I don't know if you're familiar with rateyourmusic.com.
I'm not. No.
Sure. It's just like a one part forum and then another part, like just kind of place where people rate albums on a 1 to 5 star basis. And there are Yowing's albums on there, and the genre tags are like Midwest emo. And like people compared it to like American football, which I was like, I never really understood the comparison, but if folks see it that way, then so be it. But Prathloons, I guess, is also genre and tonally a little different.
Okay. So did Prathloons initially start as a solo project? Okay, because I was
it's
interested.
Slightly confusing.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think I first released a EP under the name Yowings.
Okay.
And there was a song on the first EP called Prathloons, and I guess like once Yowings ran its course, I released like the first couple solo Yowings LP under the name Prathloons, and then kind of traveled with the name Prathloons. It feels convoluted up here, but I definitely feel like folks who have really followed me since that release may, be scratching their heads a little bit, but I think I've like kind of online kind of covered my tracks.
Gotcha.
And kind of made sure I've, cleaned up my discography as much as possible. Because like that was really the intent with The Mouth, to just kind of like, as I know on those first couple EPs, there were some weird, bad songs. And I just I just want to take the ones that I think exemplify what I'm doing the best and just put it on this 20, 30-minute thing. And just kind of put those to bed, kind of
like a bookend.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
it's a good word for it.
Yeah, it feels like it's kind of like what Double Grave did with their most recent kind of release.
Sure.
When they did, is it Ego Death Forever?
Yeah.
They just wanted to be like, well, here's all the songs we had leading up to it. Let's just, here's they are. And
yeah, it really feels like, I feel like releasing something like that really is kind of a great kind of send off and like a real confident, we're looking ahead kind of moment. So I feel like it's, it's really important for bands to do that.
Yeah. So then how did you come to like get in contact with or meet the people or put together the backing band or the live band for Prathloons? Since looking through, because like you have a couple of people or 3 or 4 people who make up what the band Healthy Competition. And then I saw Joe Kellen from Florists was in there for a little bit. So like kind of talk about that a little bit.
Sure. So yeah, so the members of Healthy Comp, which are Dan and Mags, they have been my friends for just like through music. We obviously met through music.
Yeah.
And we had just, I don't know, Dan and I are definitely close, and we're just kind of friends beyond there. And it was just kind of, I wanted to start a band and asked if he would play the drums in it. He's like a multi-instrumentalist, and I knew him first as a guitar player, but he's a drummer, and I think he does a great job. And the fact I can, collaborate with him and, also be, a close friend as well it's super easy. And Mags was introduced to me by Dan. And then, we've become fast friends. We traveled to Italy together in January. So that was a really nice bonding moment.
Yeah.
And Joe played with us for probably about a year. And just recently, they're no longer playing in Prathloons. But they're a wonderful musician. The Florists and Products are both great bands that
absolutely.
everybody should be paying attention to and going to see and streaming their music just all night long so they get that sweet money.
Yeah.
And we obviously wish them the best, and we're still operating and cohabiting the same local music scene, the DIY scene, and we're just excited for what they can make, maybe something more with the time they don't have in Prathloons.
Yeah.
And me and John, who plays second guitar in the band, have an interesting friendship journey. He was one of the folks earlier when I was talking about my early Yowings EPs and having those Twitter friends, so those internet friends. He and I met on Twitter. I kind of approached him as just like a fan of his like tweets. Like when I was like in 2010, 2011, he was making funny tweets online. And then when I moved to Minneapolis, I was lonely, and he had a community of friends that he kind of introduced me to, and we just all kind of became fast friends. We would like be in Skype calls every night, and we essentially have like the same taste in music. So
nice.
Me and John, and then he decided to go to school at the University of Minnesota. So now it's just like it's a weird full circle thing where we can go like 2013 to 2016, like Skyping each other all the time and talking about music. We have identical taste in music. And so for him to be able to collaborate with me real time, like in my project, and for him to bring so many great ideas to the table, he's an incredible guitar player. And so it's really cool. And I feel really, really honored to like be beside him, in writing and in performing, because it makes it, so much easier. I really do feel lucky. The people who are in my band are so easy to communicate with and collaborate with. So that's the journey of us all together.
Gotcha.
And it's been about a year. I think we had our first show in maybe like August or October. I'm trying to remember when exactly it was, but yeah, we're coming up on
a year,
that anniversary.
Wow. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Because it's just one of those, like, it's always the interesting game of connecting the dots in local music.
Sure.
Because like I was like looking through and I started seeing track listing or like personnel on albums and stuff, and you're just like, oh wait, they're here, and then they're here, and
people playing in 10 different bands at a time, and how everyone knows each other. It's a tough game, a tough code to crack for sure.
Yeah. So this self-titled Prathloons record came out last October, and you've worked with Matt. How do you pronounce his last name? Ciani.
Yeah.
Okay. He worked on that, and then he also worked on some of the putting together the live records you put out this year.
Yeah.
Is that a friend you knew from kind of coming up in the scene as well, or how did you connect with him?
It's a little further back.
Okay.
Matt and I went to high school in Aurora together, though we were not friends.
Yeah.
I think one of the only interactions we maybe had with one another in high school was like, he was like a techie and I was like in the plays. So like we knew of each other in that. And then I found out he played in a band, and I kind of sort of lightly played in a band in high school. And I think one time we chatted about like putting on a show at like the pavilion at the neighborhood I lived at.
Gotcha.
And it never came into fruition, unfortunately, which is fine. But then like he and my sister started dating like in 2010, 2011. And that's kind of how I got to know him a little better and knew he was, an audio engineer. And I had an old band in high school called Brady Polson. It was a silly name, but we had a friend in high school named Brady Paulson. Okay. And it was like a Leonard Skinner bit we thought was like really funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like Brady obviously just hated it. Absolutely hated it. So we just like, it was just like a two-piece band that me and my friend Alex were in. And he did our first tape called Periscope Toe, can still be found on the internet. I played drums in that band, and he sang and played guitar. And he engineered that in his parents' basement in his studio, which is just like a sound-treated basement room called the Septic Jukebox. Okay. The name is still alive to this day, even though he does not live there anymore.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how our musical relationship started. And I always he was kind of like a big brother figure to me. Like I don't know, I always thought his taste in music was so cool, and like he was a cool guy, and I liked him a lot. And just like throughout the course of like he and my sister being in a relationship, he and I got closer as well. And then I started getting more serious about music as we were getting older, and I knew he was as well. He entered at the DFA studio for a season, so he obviously picked up a lot of tips being there and working closely with James Murphy. And so he moved back from New York to Chicago, Minneapolis, kind of neighboring.
Oh, yeah.
So collaborating in real time was a lot easier, and we have like a little Google Drive, Dropbox type thing that we work through as well. And it just, seemed natural. He was a really talented engineer, or he still is a very talented engineer. And he makes great music, and he really admires the stuff that I do, which kind of empowers me to be open to collaborating with him and showing him things, and being more comfortable working in that environment, because it's really scary. Like we recorded Lands in his living room in Chicago.
Okay.
Just like he had a really big Tascam tape machine. It was like a real big one, and he hadn't used it for much before. And I just was playing like his like $2,000 like Gibson country western, and it was like, ugh.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, you want me to play my songs? And it was like really like kind of freaky. But
Yeah.
that record still to this day just like has such a vibe and such a feeling to it, and just like he and I both know that it's just like it was super formative to the craft that we currently have in the working relationship. And just he definitely I really appreciate that he understands my vision.
Okay. Yeah.
And that he's just really easy to work with. So I'm really thankful for that. And like now, like Prathloons by Prathloons was, aside from like Lightbulb, Whitney, and like the drums on Jack and Nancy, like he engineered those songs.
Okay.
But like the rest was, just kind of like a amateur effort for myself. Like, and I, what I learned, like I, learned from him. So I guess the apprentice is now becoming, a little more knowledgeable,
Yeah.
and he's given me the confidence to kind of work on my things as well. So I have some microphones now. I'm
Nice.
getting a little better at using Logic.
Yeah.
So yeah, having him around as a friend and a collaborator, of course, has been really, really nice.
Oh, cool. So then you put out 2 live albums this year, kind of, which I thought was interesting, because I don't know, you don't obviously always see that when it comes to like kind of indie or underground. Like every once in a while you'll see like a band like I don't know if you know Partition. They put out a live record.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Or EP earlier this year, I think. Okay. That and it was interesting. What was your kind of thought process behind putting out a couple of live records?
Yeah, it started out as kind of a joke. We had like a big I have a note in my phone that's just kind of like funny, like punny names for like live albums, just because like Prath and Loons are just kind of like silly. I'm gonna bring this up and leak some live on the air. And it's just like we always like, oh, we're gonna make hundreds of live albums. So some ones I've got here, I've got Hell, Prath, No Fury, Looney Tunes, Prath Swoons was gonna be our Valentine's Day one.
That's a good one.
Yeah. Tamp Loons. This is when we play in Tampa.
Okay.
Australians when we play in Australia.
Yeah.
Grapes of Prath, Dark Side of the Loons, Practical Jokers. The list goes on.
Yeah.
There's many more to come. So we hope someday we have the opportunity to make all these into a reality.
Okay.
But for now, we just have Live Loons, which we think is just like a quick enough thing, and that we could kind of release more albums under that name. But the first Live Loons was just like a low-key living room show that me and John did together, and we kind of just like set our iPhones up on either side of the room we were performing in, and then he kind of put them together and mixed them.
Okay.
And I think it was a really good way to have people hear songs like, Fly on the Wall or A Crossface, to have like more than one guitar, because those on Lands are just, are very stripped down, have nothing really added to them at all. And then the Urban Artifact Live Loons album, the one we just recently released, was more we played at that venue in Cincinnati on our first tour, and the guy doing sound at the venue was like, I recorded everything, if you guys have a flash drive. And I'm like, what? Like, no, like I did not bring a flash drive with me, I'm sorry. But he was gracious enough to give us his last flash drive on a Micro Center, a red Micro Center USB. So he like gave us all the stems from like the onstage mics and then the room mics, And it was just like, and then Matt mixed that, and I just think like it sounds good, and it's just like cool to be able to like have that cool, like there were like probably honestly 3 people at that show. There was like nobody there, and it was dope to just have that.
Yeah.
And it sound good enough to release and to like revisit that on my own and like introduce other people to how some of those songs sound live. So I'm really happy that we had that opportunity, and that sound guy was gracious enough to like record and give us his flash drive.
Yeah, because I was interested to see why you picked what you picked to record, but that because it definitely had this like Fugazi feel. Like they were like, you can go on their like the Discord label site and you just see like, oh, which one do you want to listen to? Like April 1987, like so. Yeah.
Unfortunately, no, we don't. I would kind of wish we had like an archive of our stuff, because you always think like, oh, in the Prathloons anniversary box set, we'll have all these tracks from all these times, but it's like. No, like I've like there's like Undercurrent Minneapolis videos of us performing, so like you could take audio rips from that. And like maybe that's just the way things, will be now. Like we'll just have like iPhone demos on things, because like we listened to stuff from like the 80s and the 90s, and of course like they didn't have those things, and it had all these live bootlegs have like the tape hiss in the background and stuff. But like I try and do that, but it's just not convenient, and I just feel like it kind of just takes away, as a showgoer or a performer can sometimes take away from like the moment that you're in. You're like, okay, well I need to set up my recording machine, my microphones and stuff. So yeah, again, it was just it was awesome to get that recorded, and hopefully there's more to come in the future.
So that was on your first tour then, that Prathloons Volume 2 was recorded. So how long? Tell me about that tour then.
It was a lot. I think we planned for more than we could actually do, because we ended up canceling. Like we were going to the East Coast. We had like shows in New York City and like Asheville, North Carolina, but we would have had to done an incredible amount of driving, so we canned those. But the experiences we had on the tour that we did, the dates we ended up playing, were really enjoyable. We spent a lot of time in Ohio, which is as I said, where I'm from, just Cincinnati, Columbus, Cleveland. And it was, we have a lot of friends there, and it was kind of easier to book there, but we ended up just like spending a lot of extra time there because Matt's brother lives there, and we have additional friends in Cincinnati, which we were able to bunk with and kind of hang out with as well. And that was super sweet. And, going to Nashville, I'd never been to Nashville before. That was a lot of fun to explore that part of the world. And Springfield, Missouri was a great living room show that we played. All in all, I really enjoyed the experience, and everybody else enjoyed the experience as well, and we're really excited to do it again, and hopefully to tour on, for a specific release, instead of just, hey, we're doing this tour because we've never done one before and we want to see what it's like. I think the band, I travel with pretty well. I get along with them, but like I said, we've traveled together before, so it really wasn't tolling, or there weren't too many learning experiences, any like detrimental, like, oh my God, I just discovered this thing about Dan that I never knew before, and I don't want to travel with him anymore. Which is really, 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 really awesome.
That's awesome. Yeah. Well, it's because it's interesting. Like I've toured in like college, like brass ensembles and stuff. So like I have a general idea of what touring's like, but like when it comes to actual like touring, when you're loading in everything, and you don't have to go to some like person who's just that point of reference for everything. It's interesting how tolling it gets so quickly. But definitely monotonous. Like carrying gear is a full-time job. It is. It's as unfortunately as one of the few people in like our concert brass band who could carry everything, you're just like, well, and on the truck we go.
Exactly. That was definitely a yes, back in the van. And we had to stay in a hotel when we were in Nashville, and it was like we weren't going to leave every piece of gear we had in like a public parking lot. So it's just like having to bring all that stuff to go to sleep for 6 hours, and then having to bring it all back downstairs was just like, the one moment of tour that was just like, can we please not do this today? But the expectation was definitely set prior to, of like, hey, just remember, like, it's not going to be all fun and games all the time. Like, it's a lot of work, and we might get at each other's throats, so we have to really like understand that and take care of ourselves. And I think the message got through, and everybody, we're all adults, so we kind of understand.
Awesome. On the most recent Live Loons record, you put out how many unreleased songs are found on that one? Is it just the one, or is
It's
it
two.
two? Okay.
Jetsam and Chagrin are as of this day unreleased.
Okay, are you planning to put those out soonish on a studio album?
For sure,
Okay.
for sure. I actually me and Dan just started Facebook Messengering about this earlier this week, kind of devising a plan and like a rough timeline. I really want to, take the effort to kind of get this released, maybe on vinyl or maybe just like through a label that isn't just, a self-released type deal. But just like there was something about that process that just turned me off for the longest time, because I really love creating and I really love releasing, and I love that whole hype train, lack of a better word, and just like, being responsible for every step of the way. But I just feel like it kind of gets, your stuff may get missed a lot, like algorithmically, or, just people just don't go on Facebook all the time or whatever.
Yeah.
Kind of online promotion can sometimes fall by the wayside. And, Dan brought this observation up the other day, like the DIY scene and like the punk scene are like, they're kind of operating together, but they grow in really different ways. Like I feel like Healthy Competition like dropped this like punk release like a month ago. It's great, and like I feel like that has more of an organic growth to it, and like blogs or people playing shows are like catching on to that more, and like that's gaining a lot of traction. But I feel like the current state of like indie, we'll call it, is just like not quite as organic, and I think you really have to play like a not really like a business type role with it, but definitely more of like a I don't know, you have to plan your steps a little more, and you have to kind of make sure that it's visible, and kind of do the effort to make sure that people are seeing it. Yeah. So like that's definitely something I have in mind for this next release, because like I've been like DIY releasing music since like 2013, and it's like sometimes I'm like a little like sometimes I'll get like a little discouraged, like why isn't anyone listening to this, or like this sounds good, like why isn't this
in front
blog,
of people
getting hitting me up or something. But that's just like not how it works, because I'm sure there's a million other people who have the same set of mindset as me.
Yeah.
So I really just like have to really make the effort to do that this time around.
Well, it's interesting. So I've been talking to I talked to the guys from Brace Cove, and I've talked to the guys from Jeremy Warden of Heavy Meadow, and just listening to them, their plans when they're putting out a release. Like, well, we gotta think like at least 30 days in advance. We got to start like softly pushing whatever's coming out, and then like within the next week, we got to really start reaching out. We got to hope we can figure some blog will pick it up, or So going back to like the kind of maybe the post-production process of Live Loons, did you, whatever was recorded, did you put out or take some editorial steps to make sure you like cut out maybe interludes or like talking with the audience or whatever?
Yeah, it was, I mean, there was still some in there, as you heard, but there was definitely like, I think I went on a tangent at one point about like, I think there's something on the record that's like, what's the easiest instrument to tune? And then like after that, there was still like 2 minutes. Okay. Either that of me just like tuning a guitar, because I like had to tune so many times during that set, or like, I don't know, saying something that was not funny. So there was definitely like, I took no, I didn't mix or do anything with that. That was all Matt. He had his hands on that the whole time. So his decision for what he cut out, I'm not sure, but I trust it. But that album would have been way longer if we like kept every guitar tuning interlude, or like any like thank you to this person, like just as like in between songs when you're tuning, it's like what should I say to the 3 people that are out there, like what? So that was all cut out, and we actually cut a whole song. We played we played we played Windows Movie American. We played that, and Matt was playing second guitar on that tour, and he was doing like a melody, there's a synth melody in that movie that he was recreating on the guitar that was butchered. So it cannot be, it was so off. It really cannot legitimately be passed as like a recording that people should actually listen to. So that whole song was cut, which is fine, but I think the performances on the rest of the songs were, passable, and it's still like a palatable release. So I'm fine with that song being cut.
And then another question: how do you go about translating what is on the record to your live performances? Because it's not like it's a crazy big difference between the two, but also you want to kind of keep some energy up just because it's a live show.
Definitely.
But you also want to keep the intimacy and the kind of the more heartfelt nature that you can get on a studio releases. So do you do anything like specific when you try and think about translating, or you just kind of go for it?
Definitely with Prathloons, the translation is definitely more of like a, okay, let's try and wake up, and let's, have a cool show, and let's be exciting, and let's just not like stick out in a bill, like by just performing some bummer music. Because like most of the songs like on the B side of Prathloons by Prathloons, we don't play live just because I'm kind of like, well, they're a little tonally a little different, and I just feel like everyone in the band really wouldn't be as excited to learn these songs, and that, in turn would make me like maybe slightly self-conscious.
Yeah.
And like that's a conversation that we've had, and like everybody is, open to learning some of the slower ones, but I think in a time that's a little less turbulent, like right now, we, keep having to miss practices, and, and we're in the process of writing just totally new songs that are band songs, not just call-in songs. It's slightly, it's just not the right time for that. And I think that's fine.
Yeah.
Like I would rather, if I'm going to see a band, have them play some new songs or something and have them exercise what they want to do, as opposed to, what I as a show goer want to hear. But, maybe someday those songs can make their way into like a live Loons set. But I do play some of those songs when I'm playing solo.
Gotcha.
Because they just translate a little better. I just want to be like, just conscious of what a show goer is going to want to experience with my music. Because like I could play, there's a Yowing song that's 10 minutes and doesn't really change. Like I could play that song, but like I don't think I want to.
Yeah.
If I were in the audience, I would be bored.
It's fair.
Yeah.
It's fair. Yeah. And you mentioned you're working on writing a full band for a new record. How long have you been working on that?
Well, I guess like a Jetsam was the first like new song that was introduced that we all worked on, and that was like ready in like February.
Okay.
And right now we're hoping like by our next show, which is later in September, we're hoping to have like 3 new songs. One is super close. We just need to get vocals over, but it's been a bit of a longer process just because like I'm naturally just a busier person now. The job I was working when I was writing Prathloons by Prathloons was I was like working at home almost every day.
Okay, so
it's like you have natural distractions.
Yeah.
Like you're playing a guitar and then you get lost, and then you bring up Logic and you track something, and then you mix it, and you got to do this and that and this and that.
Yeah.
So I had like so much more time to just like focus on doing Prathloons by Prathloons at that time. But like now I'm, in a relationship, and my job is not at home. And I just socially, there's a lot more going on in my life. And I have a roommate now who's, I am still slightly like self-conscious to be like doing vocal takes or louder guitar takes in the apartment when he's home, just because I want to be conscious of his well-being too. So we have only been band working together like at practices, which is like 2 to 3 times a month, which is a little grating because it's a newer experience for me. But I think it's been a really good process because I think I'm learning that I'm more comfortable just like not really running with ideas as soon as I have them. I really like to like let them, I hate to use this word, but like marinate.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a gross steak word. And I just like, it's just like with a song like Chagrin, like the ending of Live Chagrin just kind of has like a raucous ending, and it's a lot of fun, and it goes all the way in. But the new ending is like, we've been playing that song since like April. And like the new ending, like we just introduced last night, is just like, it's not loud at all. It's very quiet, and it kind of revisits a previous part. So it's like, and like, that's good because it's like, we end so many songs of just like getting loud.
Yeah.
And like, that's fun and that's great. But also like, I want to do something different with my songwriting on this one, and just that I have everyone else involved with ideas who I trust. I think that's, I want to explore those ideas, and I just want to kind of let some things wait. Yeah. And that's really great. As much as I love the process of getting an idea and recording that idea and having it there to listen to it, on the bus on the way to work. Yeah. Like, oh, I would change this. I would change this. it's also just a lot of fun just waiting and working on things live too.
Yeah.
And I'm learning that about myself. It's new for me, so it's good.
So does everybody then bring ideas to the table when it comes to song ideas, or is it you kind of come with maybe a bare bones structure and then work something out?
That's mostly how it is.
Okay.
Like I have a riff and then we just kind of jam the riff, and I have a drum beat idea in my head. I say, hey, Dan, this is what's boom bap. Like I do a little boom bap with my mouth or something. And that's how that goes. I usually come in with bass parts, but John is a talented enough musician and understands my vision enough that he's, a really great improviser and can kind of just hop on at any process or any point in the process. But it's definitely, like I said earlier, it's like still my vision and they're still my songs.
Yeah.
Like nobody has ever brought in like a riff, like, oh, I have this song or I have this drum beat or something like that. And like, if ever they were open to doing that, like I would be happy to work on it. But, everybody's involved with their own musical projects. Yeah. And like, I wouldn't expect anybody to do that. And I don't want to like be stealing a riff or anything like that from somebody.
Yeah. Awesome. So do you, I know obviously it's still kind of in the infancy stages of coming out with this new album. Are you trying to get that out by the end of this year or
maybe like
beginning of next year?
Beginning of next year, like February or March. Just if like, because we really want to tour on it and we really want to go on tour again. Yeah. And we want to tour for this, but I also don't want to rush something out.
Yeah.
But like other side of the coin, like I have the itch to want to like get something out again. And so like, I think we have 6 songs. And I really don't want to do an EP. I'm really opposed to EPs.
Okay.
For whatever reason, like EPs are fine, but I get no excitement from like announcing an EP. Yeah. And I feel like a listener is just kind of like, oh, cool, an EP. Whereas like a studio record, it's like, sweet. Yeah. I don't know what it is about EPs, but they feel like
they're almost more of a promotional tool.
Exactly.
So like I work at a country music station north of here, and so I don't know how many times we'll like get news of insert country artist has an EP out, but also they're going to be releasing their they're going to be releasing their new studio album in like 3 months, and you're like, well, then why give me a single. I'll play it on the radio. We'll call it a day. Like,
exactly.
Yeah.
So like, I mean, maybe we'll do a single. Well, I mean, obviously we will.
Yeah.
But it's just like, this happens to me with every new album release. Because right now I'm in the stages for this one where I say like these songs are just hodgepodge. Like there's no thematic consistency or like these songs all sound so different. But like you could talk to Matt like across, because he engineered the 2 out of the 3 Yeah Wings albums, and you could talk to him and he would say, yeah, Colin said the exact same things for It Feels Like Laughing With You and for Tomorrow Will Be Better. But like both those albums like ended up like in retrospect just really being like pretty on the nose with like, okay, like this is this album's vibe, or like this is this album's theme. So I think for this one I'd have to wait till like I have my 6-7 songs demoed to kind of be like, okay, so this is this kind of album, and I need to accept that. So I'm not there yet. So right now I'm just kind of like, what the fuck am I going to do? Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, thank you for sitting down and talking with me.
Sure.
The Ear Coffee Podcast is a companion to the blog of the same name. If you like this episode, please leave us a rate and review so we can stand out among the other music podcasts. You can follow us at Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram @Ear Coffee. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.